human rights strategy. I believe you have a paper which lays it out much better than I could. So, has that been distributed? Yeah, that's being distributed now. Two other, if you like, housekeeping pieces of news. So, IOC Honorary Member Thomas Ajan, and there's a statement which I will read you, and I think we will be able to give that to you later if you're interested too. And I'll read the statement now. It is with great respect that the IOC Executive Board today had to accept the resignation of Thomas Ajan from his status as an honorary IOC member. Mr. Ajan has offered his resignation while rejecting in the strongest possible terms allegations recently made against him in a TV programme. He continues to insist on his complete innocence. At the same time, Mr. Ajan explained he had realised that these allegations are overshadowing Olympic preparations and Olympic competitions in his beloved sport of weightlifting. For this reason, with his resignation, he wanted to protect the reputation of his sport and that of the Olympic movement. Excuse me a second. The IOC Executive Board expresses its thanks and great respect for this personal gesture of Mr. Ajan. The IOC would like to take this opportunity to thank Mr. Ajan for all the many services he has rendered to his Olympic sport and the Olympic movement for so many years, and wishes him all the very best in all his future endeavours. Statement on Thomas Ajan. And then finally, you can tell that the games are getting closer because there were, I think, 11 changes of nationality today. Again, the spellings and so on will be on the website, the IOC website, olympic.org, but I will just I'll run through them quickly for you. 11 applications for changes of nationality were accepted by the IOC-EB. Ms. Anne Kelman, gymnastics, from Bulgaria to Israel. Ms. Paula Amilibia Puig, equestrian, from Spain to Mexico. Ms. Paulina Amaria, taekwondo, from Mexico to Italy. Mr. Luan Grobalar, swimming, from South Africa to New Zealand. Mr. Ilyas Berkbulatov, in wrestling, from Russia to Uzbekistan. Ms. Olga Zabelinskaya, in cycling, from Russia to Uzbekistan. Mr. Zarabi Datanshvili, wrestling, from Georgia to Serbia. Alexander Savkin, modern pentathlon, from Russia to Uzbekistan. Ms. Fakhrodvinova, modern pentathlon, with apologies to her for my pronunciation, from Russia to Uzbekistan. And two more, Ms. Maria Stecic, taekwondo, from Croatia to Bosnia and Herzegovina. And Mr. Said Molaewi, judo, from refugee status to Mongolia. The EB has granted the requested exemptions to the 3-year waiting period following the consent by respective international federations and national Olympic committees. So apologies for that rather long introduction. You can see there was actually quite a lot of action today. Happy to take questions from you. So far away, we have Rachel with the microphone. If you could identify yourself, say where you're from, that would help us. Questions? After all that. Okay, let's start then. Yeah.
Hi, Martha Calner from Sky News here. Some people will wonder how Mr. Bach can say with such certainty that this Olympics will go ahead when this is a disease that's confounded medical experts worldwide. How can you be so sure?
Well, as I said in my introduction, all the advice we're getting from all the competent authorities, and the most important one is the UN recognised lead in this, which is the WHO. As you know, there's not even an international travel ban, and still not a pandemic announced. All the advice we're getting is that the Games can and will go ahead. There are some issues and complications with qualification, although thankfully National Olympic Committees and IFs are working very closely together, and we seem so far to be doing a very good job of making sure athletes can compete. So at this precise time, we are working, moving ahead, and expecting the Games to begin on the 24th of July. Yes, Mark Pontuillac.
It will be a stupid question, okay, but in French, as usual. Donc, vraiment une question idiote, mais c'est pour l'entendre dans ta bouche. Il est totalement exclu qu'il y ait un plan B et des jeux organisés ailleurs qu'à Tokyo.
As I think the President said last week, you can ask your question many, many ways. By the way, I'm sorry, I'll answer in English. But the conclusion from us is that the Games are going ahead, the Games will go ahead, we're confident they will go ahead, and we're confident they will start on the 24th of July. So all the rest is speculation. As I say, you can ask me many ways round the same question, and I will give you more or less the same answer.
My question is...
En français?
Ah oui. Merci. Non, ma question est aussi que, techniquement, il est impossible d'organiser des jeux ailleurs.
Elsewhere, there I would think so. I'm not an expert, but I would think so. We are not even thinking about that because we are planning to have the Games on the 24th of July. Yes.
Joanna Mose from Film Television. Are you also considering postponing the Tokyo Games as one of the countermeasures against coronavirus? And the second question is, despite the fact that today was supposed to be a bit more focused on the preparations for the Paris Games, why did you especially talk about the Tokyo Games and even did a press conference?
Simple answer to that question. The first question is I think a variant on the first three questions, and so I won't bother to give you the same answer, but we are going to have the Games on the 24th of July. The reason why we concentrated on coronavirus is because obviously it is a big issue for a lot of people, and there's a lot of worry. There's a lot of speculation around, a lot of people fueling speculation. We like to stick to the facts. We had a very good presentation from all of our directors. We understand and we know that there is a working group composed of all the key stakeholders around the Games, and as I said before, all the advice we're getting from the WHO, which is the competent authority, is that these Games can go ahead, and indeed they will go ahead. Eric from AFP.
Marc, deux questions en français. Techniquement, if the situation gets worse, si la situation vraiment se dégrade, qui a le pouvoir de décider d'annuler, de reporter ou de déplacer? Est-ce que c'est le CIO en tant qu'organisateur? Est-ce que c'est le gouvernement japonais? Première question. Et deuxième question, what about the test events in Japan? Est-ce qu'ils vont avoir lieu en avril et en mai avec du public, sans public? Est-ce que la question a été évoquée? Merci.
Yeah, I mean, the first question, again, it won't surprise you to know that is a hypothetical, if it will get worse or not get worse. Obviously, we are monitoring the situation and we're taking advice from the World Health Authority. As I say, at present, their advice is that this is not even a global pandemic and that there is no travel ban. So we will continue to listen to them, we will continue to listen to our stakeholders, and we'll continue to plan for the Games. The second question...
But what does the chart say? It's a decision...
Well, I don't know. I'd have to look at the charter, but I haven't even looked at the charter. Suffice to say that wasn't discussed in the. We had a long discussion this morning and a long explanation and advice from all the key directors. Those questions are not ones that have been broached. Hand on heart, I can tell you that. We are honestly planning for the Games on the 24th of July.
Test event.
Well, I mean, I guess it's test events, as you will see, and then we've had a test event also in China for the 22 Games, I believe, has been postponed. Test events are like qualification. This is, in fact, this has been more of a concern in the short medium term for us, is the qualification. But we are so far have done a very good job working with all of our partners to make sure that qualification can still take place. Test events again, it's hypothetical, but test events, I'm sure that we will find a way for qualification and test events to take part, and for us to be satisfied that the games can begin on the 24th of July. Liam.
Two. You fixed it. Two questions, Mark, if I may. Firstly, on the coronavirus, what exact steps is the IOC taking to ensure fairness of qualification for Tokyo? I think FINA chose to use the Asian Games results from 2018 for water polo, which seems a bit unfair. Some teams that weren't there for whatever reason. So what exactly is the IOC doing to ensure fair qualification? And on the transgender guidelines, what are the main reasons why you decided not, I think you explained it briefly in your statement, why are the main reasons why you're not going to implement new guidelines before Tokyo 2020? It seems that that's what a lot of people wanted the IOC to do, to sort of address this. So why not, basically? Thank you.
Fair qualification. Yeah, I mean, this is clearly something we are dealing with and looking at. And I would say that at the moment we are working very well and very closely with all the federations, NOCs as well, and the athletes, and we will do our very best. These are interesting times, but we will do our very best to ensure there is fairness. If there are any complaints or whatever, I'm sure we will hear from them. I'm sure they will be dealt with. But obviously we need to come up with a good level of a good process of qualification, which is what we will do. I can't speak it's difficult to speak in general terms, but we are working with each federation. The sports director is working with all the federations to make sure that we can adapt qualification as best we can to the situation in which we find ourselves. Yeah, Brian. Oh, sorry, second question. Yes, on why did we decide not to go ahead? To go ahead. This is an incredibly difficult field, and it deals with individuals. It's not something that we can kind of that we should have hard and fast one answer fits all. There is no single answer, and so in the end we looked at our consensus statement from 2015. It seems that is the best route to take. It would be wrong at this stage of qualification to try to impose an overall rule on all of the federations. In fact, what we find and what we think is the best way forward is to allow the federations, each federation, because it's not even just the sport. It's by discipline that there are differences in terms of performance, transgender and intersex performance. So at this stage it's best to allow, the best way is to allow each federation to tailor its rules to their individual sports and individual disciplines to try to offer as fair a way as possible that we can. But there's no hiding from it. As I said in my introduction, there is a real tension between fairness, inclusivity, and protecting women's sport, and everyone knows that. If anyone has a simple, single answer, I'm sure we would love to hear it. Yes, AP.
On the decision to go to Tahiti, I mean, clearly last year the president didn't seem so enthusiastic about it. What was the main consideration? Was it just it's going to look so good that you just wanted to go there, or was there an analysis of the environmental footprint, sustainability issues weren't actually that serious compared to moving everyone to Biarritz?
Yeah, we had a good, thorough presentation from Paris 2024, and they assured us, and they went through sustainability and importantly too the popularity amongst athletes. They did a lot of work with current athletes and some famous names as well, I believe, but they found overwhelming support. We were also given, as I say, a presentation on the sustainability of that venue. I think for more details on that, I really would have to refer you to Paris 2024 because it was their presentation. But clearly, the executive board were convinced by the enthusiasm of the Paris 2024 presentation. Yes, Alex at the back from the BBC.
You're talking about the issue of coronavirus, but I mean, if this, lots of sports are being cancelled all over the world, it seems to be spreading. I mean, you must have an idea of when, a deadline of when you've got to make a decision to postpone and delay. There must be a deadline in mind. Have you talked about that? Is it going to be the end of May?
No, we made a decision, and the decision is that the games go ahead, and where that was made some time ago. We see no reason to change that decision. There we are.
So no, you haven't discussed the deadline at all. That's not been mentioned.
No. The games are going ahead. All the advice we have at the moment is the games going ahead from all of the competent authorities. You can have all the speculation that you want, and I would love to give you a good story, but the fact is, on all of the proper evidence that we have from the competent authorities, there's no reason for us not to plan to have the games starting on the 24th of July. It's not an interview, by the way, Alex, but you can ask one more question.
One more question. It's on transgender. Have you, athletics has got a different, as I think it's 5 animals, but cycling's gone the same way. Rugby's talking about doing their own sport-specific rules, putting those in place. I mean, is that going to be the eventual situation here where each sport's allowed to come up with its own rules and everyone will be different?
Well, I think, and I won't surprise you to know I'm not an expert on this, but we certainly would encourage each of the sports, as I said before, to try to come up with rules that are specific for their sports and even their disciplines. We are still, in the longer term, longer term, looking to come up with a new set of guidelines, because I think there probably does need to be an overall set of guidelines from the IOC. But at this stage, it would be more disruptive and more unhelpful to try to come up with that. And so that's why we've come with the situation to stick with the guidelines that we had, the consensus statement that we had. We actually did reach consensus in 2015, so we think that we probably should stick with that for the time being and allow individual sports. The two are not mutually exclusive. Allow individual sports federations to decide what rules work for them, because like you, I've seen a lot of evidence that it's unclear. In fact, there's no consensus even amongst the experts, and so I think we need to leave it to the federations who know their sports and disciplines best, hopefully to come up with the rules which are the fairest in the situation that they can find. Yes, Brian Pinelli.
Brian Pinelli, around the rings. Mark, if the games do go off as planned, as keeps being reiterated on the 24th
of July.
Right. However, if NOCs, athletes, officials, fans maybe don't want to take a risk, what might be the IOC's role in accommodating NOCs, athletes, refunding tickets to fans and just trying to make the best situation out of it if others don't all buy in? Thanks.
Well, it's a great question, but it's a very hypothetical one, and I don't really wish at this stage. I see no reason to go into that. We are still somewhere away from July the 24th, when the games will begin. I see no reason to speculate. We are still moving full steam ahead with the games.
Has there been daily conversations going on?
Yeah, we are in constant contact. We have a working group that consists of the NOCs, the IFs, the Japanese government, you've seen, and the local authorities in Tokyo, and obviously the organising committee, and advice from the WHO. That is the best constellation of advice that you can get in this situation. And you can come up with all sorts of speculation, all sorts of doomsday scenarios, but we would prefer, and I think you'd understand that we would prefer to stick to the advice from the experts and to stick to the advice of those who know, and we still see no reason to think other than that we will be going ahead. Yeah, gentleman over the back there.
Thank you. Shane from China Central Television, CCTV. My question is still about Tokyo. I just came from the COVID-19 press conference in the WHO every day there. So the whole world is focusing on this virus. And as you mentioned, the event is going to take place as scheduled. For the ahead of that, for the other events of Olympics, do you have any protective measures or any special things that is going on to make sure that every participant is protected? For example, for the Grace, there's flame lighting, and also the flame will be circulating maybe in Japan or something. Do you have any suggestions for such kind of events and any measures that will be taken for this? Thank you.
Yeah, my understanding, and I'm looking towards the back, my understanding is that the torch relay, you were asking about the torch relay particularly, that is going ahead today. I saw that there's no reason to cancel it. They will allow each, as I remember reading today, but you would have to check this as well from the wires, they will allow each head of prefecture to decide on their own individual issues if any are needed. But as things stand at the moment, my understanding is that the torch relay is going ahead as normal. For other
Olympic events.
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, here's kind of getting into the detail that I don't know, but my understanding is that in some, obviously the ability to do some kind of testing and whatever would take place. And as you will know with the Chinese team, in certain sports, they have actually been residing outside of China in various locations. I think it's changing quite a lot. I know wrestling in Serbia. I know women's basketball in Croatia, table tennis in Qatar. So there are a number of measures being taken to make sure that these qualifications can still take place. And I think we need to all be very flexible. But at this stage, we're still pretty confident that with that flexibility, with some changes and quite likely some health measures at those different events, that they will take place to our satisfaction. Yeah, gentlemen.
Thank you, Hiroki Toga from Asahi Shimbun, Japan. Question about Mr. Morai for judo, change of nationality. I think you said about he didn't have to wait 3 years in order to change to Mongolia. And could you explain more about why this case was considered, and were there any options that he could participate as a refugee team, not from Mongolia?
Yeah, actually that wasn't a comment on him, that was a comment on all of them, because as you know, it should be a 3-year waiting period for all of those athletes to change nationality, but that can be waived if the NOC is concerned and the federation concerned doesn't put up an objection. So that was for all 11. They have all been accepted.
Sorry, did the IOC explain that to the Iranian Federation, or were there any conversation between the two? Thank you.
No, in that specific case, as I said at the beginning, Saeed Molai had refugee status, so we didn't have to ask for permission of the Iranian NOC. He had a refugee status and he was going to Mongolia NOC. Yes, thank you.
Masashi Noda from Kyoto News. A question on coronavirus. Today, President Bach announced the joint task force was created in mid-February. Could you give us some details on the team? Who is the head of the team? Who is the head of the team? Joint task force.
The joint task force, from our side, it would be it would obviously be Christoph Duby, but in terms of the other, I'm afraid I don't know the names of the representatives from the Tokyo Metropolitan Authority or from government, but there are senior people from all those organisations. We can probably get you a list of the composition of people.
Do you have any idea how often the joint team will have a meeting?
I think they're meeting every week, but I'm not sure, to be honest.
Yeah, thank you.
I don't have the detail on that, I'd rather not. Yes, gentlemen in the back.
Hi, I'm Noriyuki Sakai from Japanese Public Broadcaster. My question was same as him. I wanted to know the little bit details and backgrounds for the joint task force. So what was the trigger to set up this team? Do you have any ideas for that? What was the trigger to set up this team?
Well, obviously we wanted to bring together the key stakeholders representing all the key organisations that were involved by the Games and that could inform us about the coronavirus. So you have the IOC, you have the federations, you have the NOC, you have Metropolitan, Tokyo Metropolitan Authority, you have the Japanese government, and you have the WHO. That was, to be honest, I think it's a pretty clear and obvious grouping of people, of interested parties that would come together to discuss how they would be dealing with the various issues arising from coronavirus.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is necessary, I think. So, is there any stories for settle up?
Is there any?
The stories for settle up this team. Who proposed or who wanted to propose?
How was it composed, or?
Yeah, to settle up this.
The composition of the task force, I'm afraid I don't know how it was actually composed, but I would imagine that I know we're dealing with all those organisations all the time anyway, so I would imagine that we talk to each of those organisations and they put up their best person. So I can get the composition of the task force as far as we know it. I would also imagine, again I'm speculating, but I would imagine it has a changing number of people anyway, depending on what topics we're talking about. Okay, you might get... Oh, no, one more question.
From Fuji Television, you said before that because right now there is no travel ban and the WHO didn't declare the pandemic situation, that you could go on with the Tokyo Games, but...
No, to be fair, I was saying that is what they said. It wasn't the reason we're going on with the Games, but I was giving you an example of how we need to think about what's actually been said by the authorities who know, rather than the kind of mass speculation. So I was just giving you some examples. Those aren't criteria for us saying the Games will go ahead or not go ahead. They are just some of the things that I wanted to give you an idea of. Actually, generally speaking, when we actually look at the facts and the people who know about the situation, when they advise us, they're saying things like that, which I think we need to get. It helps us get into perspective and to avoid speculation, fevered imaginations about all sorts of scenarios.
Thank you.
Okay, President will be back here tomorrow, I think at 6 o'clock, Rachel? Or 7? 7 o'clock, okay. Thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Thank you.
Ajan is a little complicated.